and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan and it's time to make those final decisions for Game Week 30. Guys, we are wearing the news shirt today because we are going to be sharing all of the press conferences and team news information for you today. We're going to be talking a little bit about chip strategies and be looking at some drafts for your wildcards. Whether you've got a free hit or not, we've got 2 wildcard drafts today, as well as captaincy and much more. So guys, if you enjoyed this one, make sure you drop a like. Do subscribe if you are new around here. Let's get started with that team news. So around the press conferences in alphabetical order, first of all with Arsenal, there is apparently, according to Mikel Arteta, a chance that Saka, Gabriel and Martinelli will play this game week. But if I'm totally honest with you guys, this does seem like Arteta mind games. It seems like typical Arteta being a little bit coy with that information, and actually it feels like these players will play at the weekend. Although I should say none of them have trained apparently, but we've still got a little bit of time for them to train ahead of the game. So guys, it is technically a chance. There is no clear positive news on any of these players, but at the same time, these guys are going to play. If Saka and Gabriel, they had one leg each, they would still be playing under Mikel Arteta, wouldn't they? Thomas Partey is available and Jurrien Timber could feature soon, so beware if you are a Kivior owner, for example, or you're thinking about buying Kivior. Be aware that we've got Timber coming back soon. We've got Zinchenko and also Tomiyasu who can all play there. For Aston Villa, Cash is going to be out for 2 to 3 weeks. Ramsey is going to have a late assessment and McGinn serves the final game of his 3-game suspension. For Bournemouth, Solanke is apparently back at 100% fitness after this international break. So hopefully we're going to see a return to some top form from Dominic Solanke himself. Senesi is going to be out for this game week and Aarons and Kelly are now available. So even though Kirkes is a possibility to return this game week, with Kelly back, Aarons on that other side as well, there is some doubts creeping up on who is going to be playing in the fullback positions for Bournemouth, so avoid them all, I would say. For Brentford, Mbeumo is back after getting some minutes in game week 29. Pinnock and Norgard are probably going to be out until game week 33, and Reguilon is of course suspended for this game week. Now, there was no Brighton press conference at the time I was writing my notes, and I just wanted to crack on and record this video, so I didn't wait any longer for that. But this is what I found. João Pedro and Estupiñán are in full training, and Gilmour is back following suspension. So positive news all round for Brighton from what I could find. For Burnley, as always, Vincent Kompany gave us absolutely nothing. For Fofana, however, we know cannot play against his parent club, Chelsea. So an increased chance there of a Chelsea clean sheet with Burnley's main goal scorer at the moment. Unfortunately, not going to be able to play against them. For Chelsea, Chilwell is going to be assessed after a knee knock, and Sanchez, Chukwuemeka and Chalobah are out. Colwill, James, Lavia and Nkunku, these guys are still out as well. For Crystal Palace, there was a scare around Munoz. I know a lot of people are targeting him as a super differential attacking right wing back for this Crystal Palace defence. Well, he is going to be available after an international injury scare. Johnston, however, is out for the season, so he will not be in goal for Crystal Palace now. Elise back in training, but he is going to be unavailable for this game week. But definitely a player to kind of keep an eye on as we approach that double game week 34. For Everton, Dobbin has picked up an ankle injury. Danjuma is in training, but game week 30 is going to come too soon for him. Gay is now available as well. For Fulham, everyone is expected to be available, which is very, very positive. Some players apparently arrived late back from the international break. Not sure if that's going to make too much of a difference here or there either. For Liverpool, Darwin and Konate have been declared fit and available. Robertson is out this game week, but the injury is not serious, so it's looking like he'll be out for days rather than weeks. Trent, Jota and Alisson could return by game week 32 at the earliest, but we're not exactly 100% sure if they'll be eased back into the squad with some good form from some of those other Liverpool players, which maybe negates the need to rush back the likes of Trent. You've got Bradley there, you've got Gomez. For Luton, Doughty is available after a game week 29 scare. Ogbene has been added to the injury list. He is a new injury there, and there's actually no other injury returnees for Luton, so they're still in a pretty bad spot when it comes to injuries, which may be an advantage if you do have some Spurs assets in your FPL team. For Man City, Stones and Walker have been ruled out of this game week, which I think is positive news if you own Arsenal attackers. If you've got Saka in your team, for example, and it looks like he is going to play, then going up against, a City defence without probably their 2 best defenders is probably going to be a positive thing and increases the likelihood of Arsenal getting something out of that game. Akanji apparently is okay, and Edison and De Bruyne are available after some worries over the international break. For Manchester United, Martinez actually has a chance of being available already. There's no update on Casemiro Pereira, Evans, or Maguire. However, Højlund, he didn't play in game week 28 when Man United last had a fixture, but he is now back available. He's had some game time for Manchester United in the FA Cup over the international break. You know, he's back and ready to go for the Premier League once again. For Newcastle, Trippier has returned to training. We couldn't get a clear answer as ever. This is constantly the case with Newcastle, as you do get a little bit of mystery, no straight answers, but he's returned to training, which I think is a positive sign. If you are a Trippier owner, I think he's got a good chance of starting this game week. Livramento and Barnes also could possibly play here as well. Botman, however, he's out for this season because he has to undergo some surgery. He could be out for up to 9 months, unfortunately for him. For Forest, there's no update on Aina, Awani, Montiel or Tavares. Bolly may have picked up an injury whilst on international duty with Ivory Coast, but Wood is presumed to be available. For Sheffield United, Archer and Slimane might be available. Bulldog's going to have a late assessment following an injury issue with Greece. Holgate is going to return following suspension. And for Spurs, Richarlison, positive news there. He does have a niggle, apparently, that this club are looking to manage a little bit, but he is available to play. So, good news for Richarlison. I wonder if that is a slight concern on Heung-min Son, as that if Richarlison does start, we expect Son to move back out to the left wing. But Richarlison may be an interesting FPL asset to look at potentially if you think he is going to play this game week. Van der Ven is available. He's back returning for fitness. And Bentancur is also available. He is playing with I believe, a broken toe. For West Ham, Aguero and Paqueta will be assessed. Alvarez is suspended for 2 games. Kudus is presumably available. No news on him, but it seems, you know, silence is often a positive thing when it comes to kind of issues like this. He should be fine. And for Wolves, I think it's probably one of the more interesting ones. So Cunha could be available this game week. However, Huang, Neto and Bellegarde have all been ruled out this game week, which is going to mean that Ryan Aït-Nouri, the 4.5 million defender, is quite possibly going to be playing as a winger, an attacker this game week, which it could be huge against an Aston Villa team that has maybe struggled a little bit defensively more recently. So interesting there. Aït-Nouri as an attacker, despite being listed as a defender, could be pretty nice. Dawson, not going to be back this game week, but he is expected back next game week. And that concludes the press conferences, but there's still plenty more to talk about. Now, a question I keep getting asked this game week is, who is the priority transfer, Salah or Palmer? I think we all know that we probably want to transfer in one of these guys this game week, but which one should you transfer in? And I think there's one simple way to kind of make this decision, and it's going to depend on whether you plan on using your free hit in game week 34 or not. So if you are using your free hit in game week 34, buy Palmer as a first priority. He has the best of game week 30 fixture, and you can captain him or Son this game week instead of Salah. So you're not going to need Salah for your captaincy if you already have a Son, and you can add Palmer to that as well. Palmer can also be free hitted out in this difficult game week 34 fixture against Arsenal, so that's one less thing to worry about. And then Palmer obviously has the 2 double game weeks in the late season as well. You can also swap Son to Salah in game week 31, so wait till Son has had his fixture against Luton Town. After that, you know, maybe we see Richarlison getting more game time. The fixture's slightly worse, still pretty good for Spurs, but slightly worse than that Luton fixture after game week 30. So making that switch then, Salah against Sheffield United in game week 31 is a good time to make that Son to Salah switch if you can maybe do that. Or you can just wait until game week 34 if you really need to, and free hit Salah into your team. It leaves your options open if you go for Palmer this week, aside from Salah. Now, if you're not using your free hit in game week 34, Salah is your priority transfer, particularly if you can get him in this week without selling Son. If you can sell a De Bruyne, for example, I think that's a very, very obvious transfer to make. He's also a great captain option for this game week, as we know. Palmer is still going to be a very important player, however, in this short-term period, and I do think that if it's possible to buy him, I would. If you can potentially wait till game week 35, then I guess that is also a possibility, but I would reassess in game week 31. But the big headline is, I know you want to say, you know, pick one of Salah or Palmer. The ultimate answer really is you want both. Ideally, you have both in your FPL team, but if you have to choose just one, that is the way I would make my decision, and then I would reassess it next game week in game week 31. Wanted to throw up on screen my game week 30 to 38 fixture calendar as well, and we're pretty much locked in for the rest of the season. Now, the only question mark is when that Chelsea versus Spurs fixture is going to take place. It's going to be in one of game week 35 or 36. We're not exactly sure yet where that's going to be, but still, we've got a good idea here, and as we know, game week 34 and 37 are completely incompatible. The teams that double in 34 are completely different teams than the teams that double in 35, 36, 37. So So we are looking to make a quick transition between one team in 34 and a completely different team pretty much from game week 35 onwards. And I think that is a big thing that a lot of people do need to contend with when planning out their transfers, planning out their chip strategies and stuff like that. But let's go into that a little bit more. So I made this basic table. I posted this on social media. I did put it in another video earlier this week as well, but I thought I'd bring it up again for those of you guys who maybe missed this one. I think this is probably what I would use to decide your chip strategy if you are unsure. Now, when I have posted this graphic already, a lot of people did kind of push back and say, well, these strategies don't perfectly fit my team. I want to do something slightly different. That's absolutely fine. There's no right answer in FPL, but if you're asking me to give generic advice that can apply to as many people as possible, where to go with your chips, I find time and time again, these are the strategies that I keep coming back to and what seems to work the best. And it's going to depend on whether you have a wild card, whether you have a free hit. And depending on which of those two chips you have, that's going to define a lot how you spend the rest of the season. Now, if you don't want to go with one of these strategies, you think you can find something a little bit better, maybe works a little bit nicer for you, then go for it. Some of these strategies, they're not going to be for everyone, but I hope that these will apply to most people. That is really the goal there. So have a look on this matrix, have a look at this table. Which of these 4 quadrants do you fit into? And that is maybe going to help you decide your chip strategy there. We've also got some extra information here on the side. I've put, if you are using your free hit in game week 34, the main players to target are Chelsea and Spurs players. You could also include some City, Man United and Newcastle. But if you are not using your free hit in game week 34, the main players you're going to target right now are Arsenal and Liverpool players. And you also might want to consider Bournemouth, Crystal Palace and Wolves. And I think that's a great way of really deciding, how you are going to spend your transfers in the next couple of game weeks. Going to completely depend on whether you are free hitting in 34 or not. It's going to depend to a degree when you are wildcarding it as well. But I think this is really, really solid advice. If you are free hitting, you target one set of players. If you are not free hitting in 34, you target another set of players. So here's my first wildcard draft. This is a wildcard draft for those of you who are free hitting in game week 34. In this team, we obviously you're going to free hit in game week 34, so we don't need to worry about having double game week players for that game week. But we've got 5 double game week players for 35/36. You want to add one more Spurs player by the time they have their double game week, and we've got 12 players already doubling in game week 37 as well. So you only need to add 3 more players. You're already going to add 1 more Spurs player, so there will be 2 more players after that you'll need to add to your team in order to essentially complete your bench boost team for game week 37. So I think this wild card will work really, really well if you're able to free hit in game week 34. Just running through it, it is Petrovic in goal. We've got a Doggy, Gusto, Lascelles in defense. In midfield, we've got Salah, Son, Palmer, Gordon. Up front, Isak, Haaland, Muniz, and on the bench, Onana, Garnacho, Gabriel, and Ruben Dias. I would also consider putting Richarlison in here somewhere if you can afford it, because this team is slightly under budget, slightly under 100 million. So I hope most of you guys can afford this, but you can make upgrades potentially. Richarlison would be the upgrade I would make. I'll bring him in for one of Garnacho or Gordon there, and that will give you your 3 Spurs players. Of course, Spurs blank in 34. If you have a free hit, you don't need to worry about that too much, and you're setting yourself up really nicely both in the short term and for that longer term when we are looking to bench boost in 37. Now, if you don't have a free hit, then your wildcard is going to have to be slightly different. And it is very, very difficult. It really, really is. If you're wildcarding now, it is difficult to make sure you fully capitalize on both game week 34, 35, 36, and 37 with the doublers at the same time. So it's going to be a little bit trickier, but I think it is going to be possible. So here's what we got here. We've got Petrovic in goal, Gusto, Aitnori, and Munoz in defense. We've got Son, Salah, Palmer, Garnacho, and Saka as your midfield. And in the forward position, Haaland and Darwin. On the bench, we've got Pickford, Cunha, Gabriel, and Van Heck. I think ideally you might actually play Cunha ahead of Saka, but I think Saka is more likely to start, and I think Cunha is more likely to be on the bench for this game week. But if you think Cunha is going to start, you can maybe start him ahead of Saka, bench Saka for this difficult game week against Manchester City. But what we have here is we have 8 double game week players ready to go for game week 34. We've got Aitnori, Munoz, Salah, Saka, Darwin, Pickford, Cunha. 8 players, so pretty nice. You can maybe add 1 or 2 more by the time we get to Game Week 34. After that, we'd be looking to make a quick pivot to try and get some additional Spurs players in. We've already tripled up on Chelsea here, who you might be looking to bench in the Game Week 34 area. But after that, you know, you'd be looking to add some Spurs players. You know, Richarlison coming in for Saka, I think would be a really, really nice move to make. For example, a Doggy in for one of these defenders, maybe Nori or Munoz. One of those transfers works well. You could even do a double transfer there, maybe take a hit around there to get the additional double game week players for 35, 36. And then by game week 37, it's going to be a little bit difficult. You are going to have to make some more transfers, maybe even take some more hits, hopefully roll transfers from game week 34 into 35 in order to try and get a good bench boost. But that is one of the big difficulties of why wildcarding now is a little tricky if you plan to bench boost in 37. You could also try and wildcard now, bench boost in 34, but if you bench boost in 34, I think it's going to be really, really difficult to get Spurs players in immediately because they blank in 34, and those Chelsea players, you're probably going to have to pretty much ignore the Chelsea players as well, which obviously is not ideal for a bench boost in 34. So that's why I'm kind of a little bit against Game Week 34 bench boost. It means ignoring Chelsea and Spurs, which I think generally is a bad idea, particularly towards the end of the season where you're going to desperately need them. So yeah, I'm sure you guys can make it work somehow, but this is what I would do if I had a wild card that I wanted to use right now to kind of reset my team. But in general, I do prefer, if you don't have a free hit, to save the wild card until Game Week 35 if possible. For captaincy, it seems like a little bit of a 2-horse race, maybe 2.5-horse race this game week, with Salah and Son being the main contenders for this game week. Salah against Brighton, Son against Luton Town. I actually think Son will be the more popular captain this game week because I think more people will own Son, particularly at the higher rank. So, guys, if you want to play it safe, I think Son could be actually more the answer than Salah. But Salah's still a fantastic choice for captaincy. I think they're both really, really nice options this week. I think if Son plays on the wing, then maybe Salah edges it as a slightly better captain. But if Son plays as a central striker, you know, he is easily going to be competitive with Salah for FPL points this game week. So I don't think there's a right answer here. Go with your gut. Go with the player you think is the one for you. If you have one of Salah or Son, I think you're in a great position. You don't need both, but if you have both, amazing. Cole Palmer is probably that third guy you might want to think about captaining. And again, I wouldn't blame anyone for captaining Palmer. I think he could do very well against Burnley. I think he could potentially compete with the likes of Salah and Son this game week. And of course, Haaland is always going to be in the conversation. Muniz as an ultra differential captain against Sheffield United, but he's been in such great form recently that you kind of have to back him in many respects. So those are the kind of captains I'd be looking for in game week 30. Salah and Son, whichever one you have, go for them. If you have both, go with your gut. Palmer is definitely worth considering. Outside of that, Haaland and Muniz are probably the only other captain options worth talking about. But do let me know if you think there's any other players who you think could be captain options for Game Week 30. A quick goalkeeper start order: Petrovic, Neto, Leno, Kelleher. These are kind of goalkeepers I'd be looking to start this game week. Ideally, down at the bottom, you know, Man City and Arsenal playing each other. Probably don't want to play either of those because we're expecting probably like a 1-1 draw maybe, or a 2-1 either way in that particular fixture. Areola, Kaminsky, again, other goalkeepers you probably don't want to play this week. So ideally, a Petrovic, a Leno, and a Neto, a Kelleher. These are the kind of guys you want to be playing and starting this game week if you have them. And that, I hope, is all of the information you need in the build-up towards the Game Week 30 deadline. If we've missed anything or if you've got any other questions, guys, please do leave them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer you all because, yeah, obviously, we are back to FPL. We've got to get our brains back into gear and we're all looking forward to it. So let's get going, guys. If you enjoyed this one, make sure you are liking the video. It really does help out the channel so much. Do subscribe if you are new around here as well. Feel free to check out another video. But until then, I will see you tomorrow for the deadline stream and I'll see you later, mates. Bye-bye.